Nothing. And often a man will kill his wife and even his children and then himself. So all of those crimes in which there is nothing to gain, nothing except supremacy, are addiction, and I refer to them as supremacy crimes. It's the only way I can say what seems to be the motive. It's also true of terrorism. I mean, for instance, Mohammed Atta, who was the leader of the terrorist group in our 9/11 bombing, had been a slender, not masculine enough boy in a middle-class Egyptian family. His father made fun of him ruthlessly because he said, "Your sisters are better men than you are." He went to Germany for his diploma, for his engineering degree or something. He wouldn't even accept his diploma, no matter how hard he worked, from the hand of a woman. He left instructions that his body should not be touched by a woman. I mean, you know, it is an addiction to this idea of supremacy in which some people, a small percentage of men, come to feel, because of society, that they're not people, they're not themselves, they're not worthy unless they can dominate. And they go for a fix of domination. And I think those account for a lot of the most sadistic, violent crimes.
Excuse me. I feel that this whole idea of supremacy, I'm here, ma'am, right next to you, here.
Sorry.
In front of you. This idea of supremacy is based on deep inferiority complex and insecurity in men. They have been given, most of them, in their homes by their mothers, by their fathers, by their peers, an idea what is the meaning of a man. And in their heart of heart, they know that they are not that. They are not as brave as perhaps that mythical man is. They are not as courageous, they are not as strong, and they don't have that kind of sexual prowess that a perfect man should have. And that gives them tremendous inferiority complex, and that makes them very angry. And when you pretend to be what you are not, you tend to exaggerate. We believe, we hope as a matter of fact, against our experience, that as society will get educated, men will get liberated. Actually, it's a case of men's liberation. They are trapped into a kind of a psyche which is based on falsehood. But is it possible? Because ultimately what happens on the street, ultimately what happens anywhere, has been sold. The society reaps what has been sold in the home. I wonder, because you know much more than us, is there any corner of the world where men have gotten over to some extent over this inferiority complex?
Yes, absolutely, because especially in families where there have been nurturing fathers. Okay, so boys have grown up seeing that a man can be feeling and nurturing and loving and patient. So he doesn't have this idea that you have to be an automaton made of steel. You know, so there's nothing on earth more important than men raising children as much as women do. Nothing, because that keeps women from marrying cold, distant men because their father was cold and distant, and they think that's the only kind of man there is, and keeps men from feeling they have to be domineering or distant and so on in order to be men. There's a wonderful book by Dorothy Dinnerstein, an old and classic book that talks about this. I mean, that makes you believe when you read this book that men raising children is the key to world peace, actually, because it does away with this gender stuff. And she points out that in early cultures, I mean, speaking on my subcontinent, the 500 or 600 Native American cultures were, for the most part, matrilineal cultures in which men assisted in childbirth and, you know, were present in the children's lives. And I mean, you have such examples on this continent too. And we're trying to come back to that, you know. And it does actually work. I mean, I was lucky. I had a father who was a wonderful, patient, nurturing, funny, completely irresponsible, but I didn't care because he loved me, you know, loved me as a companion. A father I just happened to benefit from because my mother was ill and couldn't take care of me. So, you know, I figure I owe him everything. But it's not rocket science. It's really quite simple.
So on that note of hope, that maybe if men raised children or thought it was worth doing, actually, I guess they'll only raise children if they get paid. As long as it's unpaid work, Gloria, I think we're going to be having to do it. Shout.
Could I ask?
How do you want us to? Okay, the question is, by this young student is, how do you want us to do something about this?
You were part of the group that just did something about it. And I salute you. I would have given you each a rose if I could have figured out how to get it out of the bouquet here. I gave your spokesperson a rose.
Ruchira has something that you can do.
I have something specific that you can do. If you want to come and perform this play in the Khidirpur red light area, this Nukkad Natak you did, come and perform it in Bengali, and there will be lots of women who will come and watch it, and men who are passing by there. And secondly, we have a campaign called Cool Men Don't Buy Sex. And we look for students who join us and take this campaign from door to door, street corner to street corner, college to college, school to school. We have Tinku Khanna and Anuja who are standing near the cameras over there. They will tell you about how to get part of the campaign. So there's lots to do.
Thank you both. Thank you, Gloria, Ruchira. Thank you, everyone, for being such a wonderfully attentive and alert audience. And thank you, Malvika, as always.
Thanks, Ritu. The next session is at the other venue, which is at, it's called the Soy Lumiere venue. So our volunteers will show you the way. You just have to move right from the exit here. Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, Ruchira. And thank you, Ritu, for giving us a